All right, we're gonna take a few minutes here and just go over some of the products that we're going to take a look at when we come out to your house. We do things in a very specific way to make sure that we're protecting your home. We're gonna take a look at things like airflow in attic spaces, make sure you have proper ventilation, reduce things like ice damming and heat transference. We're gonna make your house a little more efficient through this. This is more than just a shingle install and slapping a layer of shingles on. So I'm gonna kind of walk through some of the education behind this. Take about 10 minutes, so bear with me and we'll burn through it. So on every home, we're gonna start with the decking. So we're always going to take these down to the bare deck. That way we can make sure we know that we're starting with a good clean surface. We don't have any damaged or rotted wood that could potentially be an issue in the future or stop us from getting a good, secure mounting surface for the shingle. So if there's holes or there's rotted wood and we nail into that, then obviously there's a risk for blow-offs. It's not easy for the underlayments to stick to these. A lot of these are self-adhering, so if you don't have a good clean surface, you just can't do that. So another reason for this is that manufacturers don't stand behind the warranties. They won't back the warranty if they don't know what was put on underneath it. So a layover, you're not going to get a warranty with it that's going to give you that added protection. And then obviously the peace of mind to know that it was installed over a good solid surface. In a lot of cases, people don't know what the last roofer did to put what kind of products are on the house. So we're just kind of going over a bad product, and we want to start from scratch, and it's just worth that extra step to make sure that this is done correctly. So in this picture, you can kind of see here some attic space. We're going to take a look at the attic, take a look and make sure that we have adequate ventilation. We're going to talk about it, ventilation here in a minute. Make sure we go over some of those products. So we do a little more than just slap a shingle on your roof. We want to make sure that this is truly installed correctly and it's installed in a way it's going to last, right? And if the attic gets too hot, as an example, then that's just something that's going to add to the deterioration of the products and shorten the lifespan. So really, this is where everything starts, getting right down to the OSB and making sure that we're starting with a nice clean surface. So we'll flip to the next page here. Once we get into this, the first thing that we're going to do at the eaves is we're going to install 2 rows of ice and water. So in this picture here, you just see one. We double that. We need to get inside of that actual conditioned airspace inside the house to make sure that anything above that is protected from ice damming. That's how it's caused. We can obviously go into that in a little greater detail when we come to the home and talk to you about some of the reasons for that happening and some of the ways that we can mitigate that on your home. But we're going to install 2 rows as a standard just to make sure we have adequate coverage. And then also we're going to go up the valleys. That's going to make sure they have a good solid leak-proof belly pan. I mean, these shingles, no matter what shingle you put on your house, they're not completely waterproof. If you submerge them or you drive rain under them, wind, those are going to be areas that moisture can get under that shingle. And we're going to start here to make sure that we create a good watertight surface that way when the water does get through, it just dries right out. It's either gonna leak out of there or dry out on its own, which is gonna make sure that decking stays strong for as long as possible. So that's step 1. The next step here comes into the ventilation. So at this point, if we needed to add ventilation, Owens Corning has a great product here for edge venting. You may see on some homes where a few feet up, you'll see a kind of a raised edge in the roof. That's called edge vent. Certain manufacturers do it partway up the roof. With Owens Corning, they have an option right here at the eave, which we really like because it's very subtle. It's hard to tell it's there, and it really blends in with the roof, and it gives a little bit of airflow right here for that ridge vent we'll talk about in a second to pull that vacuum and let that air flow through the attic, especially in the summertime, to let that heat out, and then also in the winter to make sure that we keep a good buffer there and we're not creating some ice damming. So this is where we'd install that. Next step here is that we're going to get into synthetic underlayment. So this is usually the first place that companies will try to save some money. They'll put a cheaper product on. There's a lot of products in the industry and they are not all created equal. We have a lineup of products. It'd be great if you could feel some of these because there's truly a difference as we go through the weights. When we come to your house, we'll show you these things so you can touch them and feel them and kind of get an idea for the different options. We have some products we really like that we'll recommend that are going to be a great value for you, that are going to go a long way without spending money unnecessarily. So this is the first line of defense. At a minimum, we're going to want to look at putting like a Pro Armor. This is a very strong leak-proof barrier. It has a walking surface there. You can see the Pink Panther, everything they've got is going to have that that pink on it if it's made by OC. So even going up into their next, if you go into like the deck defense, you can see it's just a more rigid. Once again, you really need to touch it and feel it to see it, but you can see the grid patterns just get a little smaller. This is going to be a more premium product, and then up and up and up from there. You can get into some different brands. There's a lot of different options, but you can see on this one there's a little wider weave. This is not as premium of a product. This is going to be more likely to sustain some permeation, some water coming through there. Oh, got some products blown away here. But then you go up and up from there. You can get into some high temp underlayment, some really rigid self-healing products that even as a nail goes through these, they're going to self-heal, and as you try to pull that nail out, you'll see that adhesive kind of coming with it. So once again, just this is your first, these two products, the ice and water and this are going to be your first two lines of defense. And then kind of bouncing back to that ice and water, you can see there's also a lot of different options here depending on the project. We want to match this with what your home needs, right? What's going to be the best suited for you. We're not one size fits all. Let's just cookie cutter install a roof based off of what fits our needs, right? This is more about what your home is going to benefit from, not spending dollars unnecessarily, really creating a true system that is tailored to your home and your desired outcome. So those are really the first two things there that we want to pay a lot of attention to. By the time we get to this point, this roof is pretty well protected. Obviously, we're never going to leave this exposed. In most cases, an install is going to take a day. Sometimes on big roofs, it might take 1 or 2 days. But either way, we know that at this stage, a few hours into the project, this is completely sealed. The building envelope is now protected, and we can start putting on additional products and really putting the part on that most people are familiar with. So the next step in this used to be when you install an old 3-tab shingle, you could see those square shingles, the three individual tabs. You would flip that shingle upside down and it would give a solid surface to mount, to kind of bricklay that first row. Now we have these dedicated starter strips. This is going to be less seams. It's more rigid. It's just an overall better option for a starter. This has pretty well been the industry standard for quite some time. So this is what we're going to use. And then we're also going to include this, on here you can see that it's just on the eaves. That's code. We take it a step farther and also run it up the rake edges. This is a good way to just add an extra bit of thickness underneath that edge to make sure that it's rigid from wind, rain, any potential impacts. We want to make sure that this is a completely sealed system before we ever put a shingle on your house. So this is going to lock up those sides really well, give you absolute protection from wind and rain, and make sure that this is, like I said, a truly sealed system. So all of this is happening, once again, before we've ever talked about a shingle or looked at color. These are all the things that I think get missed that really go into a true quality install on your roof and making sure that you have a long-lasting product. And all of these are going to add to the longevity. The manufacturers recommend these products, and they recommend they're installed a certain way. So with the underlayments, they recommend that we install them with a cap nail or with a cap staple. That's a fastener that has a plastic head to it that stops from water leaking around it. It's designed to seal that head. And most contractors are still using a slap stapler. Well, when you do that, they're not sealing that surface, right? And part of being a preferred contractor and working with companies like Owens Corning and other companies we've worked with in the past is that they will now back our work. It's not just they have a warranty on the shingles and then good luck if there's an issue with the install. They know that we're installing these things correctly. They've vetted us to make sure that we're going to follow their procedures, and then when we do, they actually back our work as well. So as a preferred contractor, Owens Corning will back our install for 10 years on that project, which is a great peace of mind to a homeowner, especially in today's world where you don't know who you're dealing with, and it's important to know that you have the backing of not only the contractor but also of a big corporation that's going to have the ability to take care of that for you and to be able to do that into the future. So that's a nice added benefit. So now we get to the piece that everybody talks about. All right, we're going to put a shingle on your house. So Owens Corning, they make a great product. So they're one of of two that I'm aware of that is actually designed to be installed with a nail gun. which sounds crazy because if you've ever been on a job site, you've seen every shingles installed with a nail gun. But Owens Corning has what's called this sure nail strip in it. So this is embedded into the shingle. If you try and tear through this, it's a very tough surface. What that allows the shingle to do is stop any nails from potentially blowing through that shingle, which would then in turn allow the shingle to just fall off. So this is how you're going to pop that nail in. It's going to be straight and flush per code, and it's going to have a nice solid stop to make sure that nothing can tear that off. So even with 4 nails, this shingle carries 130 mile an hour wind rating, and that's just unheard of. This is a great product for longevity on your home, and not to mention the color selection in OC is unmatched. These guys win awards every year for their selection in the industry to give you different color options, and kind of go through. Once again, when we're in home, we'll show you a whole slew of different options, from Merlot to just a standard black and gray. And even in the black shingles, you have a real great definition where you see some grays and blacks mixed in, where it doesn't just look like a big blob on the roof. So great product to look at. A lot of companies make a great shingle, but once again, not all created equal. Each company has a tier. For us, we really like the Duration series. There's a step above that goes into the Class 4 hail impact rating. And once again, this is probably a different video that gets into some even greater detail as far as the different tiers and why we might recommend that for your specific home. But all in all, Duration's a great all-around product that's good for most homeowners. And then once again, we'll kind of show you the pieces, the components of the roof, how that sure nail strip works. We can kind of put some samples in your hand to show you what that feels like. And then once again, some things like the streak guard. You're going to have a warranty against any streaking. You have a 25-year algae resistant rating on the shingle to make sure you don't have any black streaks coming down the roof. A lot of really great features in this. So definitely a product we want to talk about and make sure that you're familiar with. That's not quite the end here. We're just wrapping up. The next step is going to be, once again, I mentioned ventilation. We're gonna come right back. Now we have this edge vent down here. If you have soffit vents, you've already had that, but then we need a place for it to escape. So on older homes, you're gonna have can vents or pot vents at the top that are gonna let that heat out. This is a much more efficient system. This is gonna run the entire distance of any ridge that needs to be vented. So once again, not all vents are created equal. There's a lot of different options in the industry. You can see there's rolls that are like this, just rolls out, right? And then unfortunately, some of these products over time, there's some very cheap products. Actually, my house I'm sitting in front of has an older style ridge vent on it that was put on about 22 years ago. And you can see where birds and insects and things have burrowed in there, and it's clogged up, and then it's just like an air filter in your home that you can't replace. If your air filter gets dirty and you have to change it, once it's on the roof, it's not changeable. So what we typically recommend is going into a product like this, right? This is going to be in strips. This is going to give a nice surface where you can see you have some grates that are under there to make sure that you can't get anything in or out except for airflow. So you have a nice vented screen here that's on the inside, protected from the elements. And then the last piece over top of this, once we put that on the ridge, is going to be your actual cap shingle. So we use a dedicated cap shingle that's going to be an exact match to the shingle color of your choice. So that's the nice finish off touch on the top. We're gonna put this in any area, not only where there's vents, but also anywhere there's a ridge or a hip on the roof, and just tie that out nicely. So that's really a good run through on the components of the roof and how this all goes together. If you ever have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out and just ask, right? We love educating people on this. We like talking about these products and helping people understand what they're paying for, right? What they're getting, what the difference is. If you have 4 estimates on your home, you're gonna get 4 very different answers. And we really like to take the approach of coming in and educating our customers and making sure they understand what they're getting, and to provide them with not only the education but the best value, to make sure we're giving you as most for your money as possible, and that we've treated you fairly, and that you want to just tell your neighbors what a great experience it was. So I appreciate you taking the time to watch the video. Once again, my name's Andrew, Heritage Roofing and Exteriors. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. Thanks. Have a great day.